My wife secretly sold our family home for $350, $0, and transferred it to her lover's name before divorcing me. Now she's claiming I owe her half the sale proceeds, and I just found out she forged my signature on legal documents. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife, Lisa, turned out to be the biggest liar and cheat I've ever known. The shocking part, it all started with something so innocent, at least that's what she kept telling me. But looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. I just didn't want to believe it. Lisa and I had been together for about 10 years. We met right after college, got married pretty quick, and built a life that I thought was solid. We had a nice house in the suburbs, nothing fancy, but it was ours. I worked hard as a project manager at a construction firm, and she stayed home with our two kids, Emma and Jake. Things weren't perfect, but they were stable, or so I believed. The first cracks appeared about 6 months ago. She started working late more often. At first, I thought it was just her trying to get ahead at work or maybe some extra hours to cover the bills. But then I noticed her phone. She was always hiding it, locking it when I came close, and deleting messages in a way that seemed overly cautious. She'd get defensive when I asked about her phone or her whereabouts. Little things, but enough to make me suspicious. Then there was the money. We had a joint bank account and I'd check it occasionally. I started noticing withdrawals I didn't recognize, small amounts here and there, but enough to raise questions. I asked her about it and she brushed me off, saying I was paranoid, that I didn't trust her. That hurt, honestly. I tried to ignore it, but deep down I knew something was off. One night I came home early from work because I wasn't feeling well. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw her car parked in the driveway, but her phone was on the porch and it was ringing nonstop. I picked it up and to my shock I saw a string of texts from someone named Mike. They weren't just friendly messages, they were flirty, explicit, talking about meeting up, about sex. My stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I confronted her that night. She was caught off guard but quickly recovered, throwing out lies like she'd practiced them. "Mike's just a coworker," she said, rolling her eyes. "You're overreacting, it's nothing." But I knew better. I knew that look she gave me when she thought I wasn't looking, that defensive, guilty expression. It was all there. That was the moment I realized my wife, my partner for a decade, had been lying and cheating behind my back. But what I didn't know yet was how deep it went. I found out she'd been secretly selling our house, transferring it to her lover's name, and now she was claiming I owed her half the sale proceeds. I also discovered she forged my signature on legal documents, documents I didn't even know existed. Everything I thought I knew about her, about our life, was a lie. The more I dug, the more I uncovered the extent of her deceit. It was like peeling back layers of a rotten onion. I felt betrayed, furious, and utterly stupid for not seeing it sooner. I mean, how could I have missed the signs? How could I have trusted her after all this? It's a sinking feeling, like my whole world was built on a lie, and now I was left holding the wreckage. I still remember the day I found the legal papers. I was going through our files, trying to organize things, and I saw her handwriting on a document, her signature forged next to my name. That's when I lost it. How could she do this? How could she lie about everything, sell our home, and then turn around and claim I owed her money? The betrayal was so complete I felt like I was choking on it. I don't want to make this sound overly dramatic, but honestly, I've never felt so betrayed in my life. I trusted her. We built a life together. And now I realized she was planning to leave me with nothing, all while pretending everything was fine. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I didn't see the red flags. But I guess sometimes you're just too blind when you want to believe in the best of someone. That's where I am now. I'm facing a legal mess, a broken marriage, and a shattered sense of security. I don't know what comes next. I just know that I can't let her get away with this. I need to figure out how to fight back, how to protect what's mine, and maybe somehow find a way to heal from this. After I found those forged documents and the evidence of her selling the house behind my back, everything changed in an instant. I went from feeling betrayed to feeling completely enraged. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing with questions. How long had she been planning this? Was she cheating on me even before I found out? And most importantly, how could she be so cold and manipulative? The next morning, I started digging into everything I could find. I pulled bank statements, legal papers, emails, anything that could give me a clearer picture of her scheme. It was like peeling an onion, each layer revealed more lies. I found emails between her and a lawyer discussing the sale of the house. She had been secretly working with this lawyer, forging my signature on legal documents, transferring the deed into her lover's name. All of it was done without my knowledge. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deep her deception went. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. She sold our house for $350, $0, more than enough to buy her lovebird a new place, or so she claimed. She kept insisting she was just trying to start fresh, that I was holding her back, and that she deserved half of the sale because we were married. But that was a lie. She sold the house secretly without even telling me, and then transferred the title to her lover, Mike. I couldn't believe her audacity. She kept lying, claiming I was overreacting, that I had no right to question her. But I had proof now. The emails, the forged signatures, the bank withdrawals, everything pointed to her orchestrating this behind my back. I started feeling sick thinking about how she had betrayed me, not just emotionally but financially too. She'd taken our biggest asset and turned it into her own personal cash cow. And then there was the thing that made my blood boil the most, her claim that I owed her half the sale proceeds. She's trying to say we split everything, that I'm entitled to her share of the money. But she sold our home behind my back, forged my signature on legal documents, and now she's demanding money from me. That's when I realized she was just trying to manipulate me into giving her more. She's always been good at lying, but now she was crossing into outright theft. I confronted her again that afternoon. I told her I knew everything, the forged documents, the sale, her affair, her lies. She just shrugged and said, "You're overreacting, John. I did what I had to do. You're just jealous and insecure. Mike's the real deal and I'm leaving you because you're a deadbeat." That was her favorite line. Blame me, insult me, act like everything was my fault. But I wasn't buying it anymore. The thing is, she was so calm, so dismissive, like she didn't care about the damage she was doing. That's what hurt the most. Her callousness. Her ability to lie so easily, to pretend. She was the victim when she was the one orchestrating it all. I felt like I was living in some twisted nightmare, like I'd been played for a fool all these years. Emotionally, I was a wreck. I felt angry, betrayed, and deeply hurt. I kept thinking about all the moments I missed, her late nights, her secret phone calls, the way she avoided my eyes. I started questioning everything. Did she ever love me? Or was I just a stepping stone for her to get her hands on my money? I was furious at her but also devastated. I trusted her with everything, and now I was left with nothing but a trail of lies and broken promises. That night, I sat alone, staring at the legal documents and bank statements spread out on the table. I felt numb, like I'd been hit by a truck. I knew I couldn't just let her walk away with everything, especially after what she'd done. I decided I had to fight. I started thinking about my options: lawyers, courts, maybe even going after her for fraud. I couldn't let her get away with forging my signature and selling the house without my consent. That was theft, plain and simple. I also realized I needed to get my head straight. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I had to be smart, strategic. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of her messages, copies of the forged documents, bank statements. I reached out to a lawyer I found online, explained everything, and scheduled a consultation. I knew this was about more than just money now. It was about standing up for myself and making sure she didn't ruin me financially. Honestly, I felt like I was in a war I didn't sign up for. My trust was shattered, my sense of security demolished. I never thought I'd be fighting my own wife in court, trying to prove she was a liar and a thief. But here I was, determined to fight for what's right. I can't let her get away with this. I just hope I have enough strength to see it through. After I gathered all the evidence, screenshots, emails, the forged legal documents, bank statements, I knew I had to act fast. The legal route wasn't going to be easy, especially with her spinning lies about how everything was just a misunderstanding or my paranoia. I spent the next few days poring over online legal resources, trying to understand what my options were, and I finally found a lawyer who specialized in property fraud and family law. Meeting with the lawyer was eye-opening. His name was David, and he was sharp, exactly what I needed. When I explained everything, he didn't sugarcoat it. "John," he said, "what your wife did is serious. Forging your signature, selling the house without your consent, transferring the title, those are all criminal acts. You have grounds for a lawsuit, both civil and criminal, but you need to act quickly. The longer you wait, the more she can hide or transfer assets." He advised me to file an emergency injunction to freeze any further transactions related to the house and to start the process of invalidating the sale and the transfer. That meant I'd need to get a court to declare her actions illegal and to recover the property if possible. The idea of going to court was intimidating, but I knew I couldn't sit back and let her walk away with everything. In the meantime, I decided to confront her again. I called her and told her I was speaking with a lawyer and that I had evidence of her illegal activities. Her reaction was classic Lisa, defensive, dismissive, and trying to spin everything. She yelled, "You're just trying to ruin me. I did what I had to do. The house was a burden and Mike's the only reason I stayed sane. You're just jealous because I found someone who loves me. You're not man enough to admit I'm better off without you." Her words stung, but I stayed calm. I told her I was going to take legal action and that her lies wouldn't hold up in court. She scoffed, "Good luck. You're just a bitter ex. No one's going to believe you." That's when I realized her confidence was a mask. She was scared. She knew she was caught, but her arrogance made her think she could just talk her way out of it. I also started digging into her financials more. I hired a private investigator to look into her accounts, her activities with Mike, and any hidden assets she might have. The investigator uncovered that she had transferred money from our joint account to an offshore account, possibly to hide assets. She was trying to cover her tracks, but I had enough now to see her plans more clearly. The emotional toll was heavy. I felt betrayed, angry, and helpless all at once. I kept replaying the moments when I trusted her, when I thought we had a future. It was crushing to realize she'd been planning this entire time, selling our house, forging my signature, and lying to my face. Every betrayal felt like a punch to the gut. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? Was I blind? Did I really not know her at all? Despite all this, I knew I had to stay focused. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I'd come to realize that her lies weren't just about the house or money, they were about control. She wanted to take everything and she thought she could get away with it. But I wasn't going to be a victim. I was determined to fight back, to get justice, and to protect what was left of my life. The next step was to prepare for a court hearing. I collected everything, proof of her illegal actions, the emails, the bank records, the forged signatures. I worked with David to draft a petition for an injunction and a lawsuit to recover the property and seek damages. It was a long shot, but I had to try. I couldn't let her get away with this, not after everything. In the meantime, I also started thinking about what I wanted for myself. The betrayal cut deep, but I realized I couldn't let her destroy me emotionally. I needed to focus on rebuilding, on healing. I reached out to friends and family, told them what was happening, and leaned on them for support. Honestly, I felt like I was walking through a storm, confused, angry, desperate. But I knew I had to keep going. I also made a decision. I wasn't going to fight her in court just for the money or the house. I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions, to realize that she couldn't just lie, cheat, and steal without repercussions. I wanted her to understand that betrayal has a price, and I was ready to make her pay. The court date finally came after weeks of frantic preparation. I had all my evidence organized, emails, bank statements, legal documents, and the investigator's reports. I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. Sitting in that courtroom, I could see Lisa on the other side, her face a mask of arrogance, acting like she had done nothing wrong. But I knew better. I knew her game. When the judge called the case, I stood up and laid out everything. I explained how Lisa had secretly sold our house for $350, $0, transferred the title to her lover's name, and forged my signature on legal documents. I showed the court the email exchanges with her lawyer, the bank records with offshore transfers, and the forged documents. I could see her flinch when I presented the evidence, her confident facade cracking just a little. Lisa tried to deny everything at first, claiming I was paranoid and that I was just trying to ruin her reputation. Her lawyer argued that there was no proof of fraud, just a misunderstanding. But the judge wasn't buying it. The evidence was overwhelming. The forged signatures, the illegal sale, the transfer of assets, all illegal acts that couldn't be dismissed as misunderstandings or mistakes. The judge ruled in my favor, issuing an injunction to freeze any further transactions related to the house and ordering an immediate investigation into Lisa's actions. House was to be returned to the estate's control, and Lisa was instructed to provide a detailed account of the sale and transfer. The court also scheduled a hearing for damages and possible criminal charges. I felt a wave of relief, but also exhaustion. It was over for now, but I knew this was just the beginning of a long fight. Lisa's face was pale, her confident smirk replaced by a look of panic. She tried to argue to plead her case, but the judge cut her off. "Ms. Johnson," he said firmly, "your actions constitute fraud and theft. You are not to take any further steps with the property or assets involved until this matter is resolved." Leaving the courtroom, I felt a strange sense of victory mixed with dread. I had taken the first real step toward justice, but I knew Lisa wasn't going down without a fight. She was cunning, manipulative, and ruthless. I was prepared for whatever came next, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the tip of the iceberg. Back home, I sat alone in the quiet house, staring at the empty walls. For a moment, I wondered what my life would look like after all this. Would I be able to rebuild? Could I trust again? The betrayal ran so deep I questioned everything, my judgment, my instincts, even my own worth. But beneath all that, a small voice inside told me I had to keep fighting. I owed it to myself and to the life I deserved. That night, I started to plan my next move. I needed to get Lisa out of the house legally, secure my finances, and start the process of healing. I also decided I wouldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I promised myself that I'd stand strong, no matter what she threw at me next, because I knew her. She was capable of anything, and I had to be ready for the chaos that was coming. For now, I was just trying to breathe, to process everything I'd uncovered, and to hold on to the hope that someday I'd come out of this stronger. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Lisa had a way of coming back when you least expected it, and I had to stay vigilant. Because if I learned anything through all this, it's that betrayal is just about money or secrets. It's about trust, and once that's broken, it's damn hard to put back together. The days following the court ruling were a whirlwind. I spent every moment trying to piece my life back together, but honestly, it felt like I was still in shock. Lisa's reaction was predictable. She tried to spin it all, claiming I was jealous, a controlling husband who just couldn't handle her moving on. She even had the nerve to cry and say I was trying to ruin her reputation, all while secretly plotting her next move. It was infuriating. I knew I had to get ahead of her. I hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her activities, especially since I suspected she'd try to hide or transfer more assets. The PI confirmed my fears. She was still trying to move money offshore and was in contact with shady lawyers, trying to find loopholes. The more I learned, the clearer it became that she was desperate to cover her tracks. Meanwhile, I also started the process of dividing our remaining assets. I got a forensic accountant involved to trace every dollar, every transfer she made. I wasn't about to let her walk away with anything else. I also contacted another lawyer to prepare for the upcoming damages hearing. I wanted justice, not just for what she did to the house, but for the financial damage she'd caused. Emotionally, I was a wreck, but I forced myself to stay strong. I kept reminding myself that I was fighting for my future, for my kids' stability. Lisa kept trying to gaslight me, telling me I was paranoid, that I was just jealous of her new life with Mike. She even tried to spin the story that I was an abusive husband, which was so far from the truth I almost laughed. But I knew her game. She was trying to manipulate everyone, especially the court, to turn things in her favor. One day, she confronted me directly in the kitchen, her voice cold and sharp. "John, you're just jealous because I found someone who loves me. You're too afraid to admit I'm better off without you. You'll regret this, I promise. Mike and I are building something real, and you're just bitter because you're losing your wife and your money." I looked at her, feeling a mix of rage and sadness. I wanted to scream at her, tell her she was a liar, that she destroyed everything we built. But instead, I just told her, "You can lie all you want, Lisa, but I have the evidence now, and I'm going to make sure you pay for everything you've done. You can't hide behind your lies forever." That moment, I realized she was truly dangerous. She was willing to burn everything down just to get what she wanted: money, a fresh start, and control. But I also knew I had the truth on my side. I had the law and I had my integrity. I decided I wouldn't be the one to break first. I would fight her every step of the way. The next few weeks were a blur. I attended depositions, more court hearings, and met with my lawyer almost daily. Meanwhile, Lisa was doing her best to spin stories to anyone who would listen: her friends, her family, even the neighbors. She told everyone I was abusive, that I was trying to keep her from her happiness, that I was just bitter and jealous. But I had the evidence, and I knew the truth. One night, I caught her trying to transfer more money offshore again. That was the final straw. I reported her to the authorities. The police came, and she was caught red-handed trying to hide assets. That led to criminal charges for fraud and forgery. It was satisfying, honestly, seeing her get caught in her own web of lies. Her face was a mixture of shock and fury when the police arrived. She kept saying it was all a misunderstanding, but the evidence was clear. That was the turning point. Her arrogance was gone, replaced by panic. She tried to manipulate the police, but they weren't interested in her lies anymore. I felt a strange sense of closure, knowing that justice was finally catching up with her. But I also knew this was just the beginning of the process of healing. Now, I was focusing on rebuilding my life. I filed for divorce, and it was hard, more than I expected. But I knew I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. I wanted to protect my kids from the chaos and give them stability. I also started therapy, just to deal with the emotional fallout. It's been a long road, but I'm learning to trust again, slowly but surely. Looking back, I realize I learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the people you least expect. But I also learned that standing up for yourself, even when it's difficult, is worth it. I refuse to let her ruin me. I've got a new perspective now, one that's focused on honesty, integrity, and resilience. If there's one thing I want others to take from this, it's this: don't ignore the signs of betrayal. When something doesn't feel right, dig deeper. Protect yourself, your assets, and your sanity. Because in the end, the truth always comes out, sometimes in ways you never expected. And you have to be ready to fight for what's right, even when it feels like the world is crashing down around you. Now that everything has settled, I find myself sitting here, reflecting on how drastically my life has changed in just a few months. The house is gone, Lisa is facing criminal charges, and I'm finally starting to rebuild what's left of my sanity. Honestly, I never thought I'd end up in a situation like this, caught in a web of lies, betrayal, and outright theft. But I learned some hard lessons along the way, ones I won't forget anytime soon. One of the biggest things I've realized is how easy it is to trust someone you love until that trust is shattered. Lisa was my wife, my partner, the mother of my kids. I never imagined she could do something so calculated and ruthless. But her actions proved me wrong. What hurts the most isn't just losing the house or the money. It's the betrayal of what I thought was a life built on honesty. That trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to fully restore. Through all this, I also learned the importance of standing up for yourself. I could have just rolled over and let her take everything, but I didn't. I fought, I gathered evidence, I lawyered up, and I refused to be bullied into silence. It's not easy, and honestly, it's exhausting. But it's necessary. No one should have to accept being lied to and stolen from without fighting back. That's how I stayed sane, by knowing I was doing everything I could to set things right. The legal battle was draining, but it also gave me a sense of justice. Seeing her face the consequences of her actions, facing criminal charges, having her assets frozen, was a small victory. It reminded me that even when people betray you, the truth has a way of coming out, and justice in some form will prevail. As for the future, I know I still have a lot of healing to do. The pain of betrayal doesn't just go away overnight, but I've started focusing on myself and my kids. We're moving forward slowly but surely. I've learned to trust again, but more carefully now. I've become more cautious, more aware that sometimes people hide their true selves behind a mask of charm. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, I want to say, trust your gut. Don't ignore the red flags. When something feels off, investigate. Protect your assets, your heart, and your peace of mind. And never be afraid to stand up for yourself, even if it means facing the hardest truths. Because in the end, the truth is your best weapon. I don't know what lies ahead, but I do know I'll be okay. I've learned that resilience isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up every time you do. And I've got a new perspective now. One that's rooted in honesty, strength, and hope. Betrayal might have knocked me down, but it didn't break me. Not entirely. And I refuse to let it define me. This has been the most painful but also the most eye-opening experience of my life. I've come out of it battered, yes, but also stronger. I've learned that sometimes the greatest lessons come from the worst betrayals. And no matter how dark things seem, there's always a way to find the light again.